Hey guys, welcome back to my kitchen. This week my husband was away for work, so I decided to make some meals that I would really like for myself, and I tried a couple new recipes as well, so I hope you enjoy the recipes this week. And if you do want to make any of these, I would suggest that you double or even triple them for you and your family. First up, we're going to make some Parmesan Crusted COD. I have made this before. My husband does actually like this one, but I've been really wanting it, so we're making it today. You will need to preheat your oven to 375. And then into a bowl over here, I have about 1/3 cup of panko breadcrumbs, 1/4 cup of grated Parmesan cheese, 1 teaspoon of paprika, 1 teaspoon of parsley, about 1/4 teaspoon of red pepper flakes, a few shakes of pepper, and a few shakes of salt. Go ahead and get that mixed together really well. Make sure the seasonings are mixed in super good, and make sure you break up the little pieces of Parmesan that have balled up as well. I'm just using 2 smaller pieces of cod. These are actually just from Walmart. They come in a really big bag in the meat department area where they keep like the shrimp and stuff like that. I'm just using 2 pieces tonight since it's just me. Once I got my fish out of the little bags, I went ahead and just dried them off with some paper towels. And then you're going to want to make sure you really pack on this breading onto your fish, kind of press it in with your fingers on all sides. I added my fish into my small baking dish with a little bit of nonstick spray on the bottom, and I'm also going to take some of that breading once I get the fish in there and press it down into the fish. I baked this in my oven for about 10 to 12 minutes until my fish was flaky and reaching at least 145 degrees. Here is what my finished plate looked like. I just made some lemon tortellini to go with this, lemon garlic tortellini, and some broccoli. I've made this before on my channel. I'll link the video with it below. But I've also made this fish a couple times. It is so good, one of my favorite meals, and super easy. Next, we're actually going to be making some Zuppa Toscana, which is a soup you can find at Olive Garden. It's definitely one of my favorites. I started by chopping up half of a yellow onion into nice small pieces. Over to a pot on my stove, I am cutting up about 3 slices of bacon. I'm just using my kitchen scissors to do this, adding it straight into the pot. I'm going to let this bacon cook by itself, and when it's done, just remove it to a plate with a paper towel. I removed some of the bacon grease, but not all of it. I did leave probably a tablespoon or so in there. Now I'm adding 1/2 pound of Italian sausage and the onion that we cut up earlier. I'm going to let this cook together in here. While that's cooking, I went ahead and started peeling my potatoes. I just peeled 4 yellow potatoes and then cubed them into pieces just like this. Once my sausage was fully cooked, I did leave the grease in there and then added about a teaspoon of minced garlic. I stirred that around and let it cook for an additional minute to let the garlic get fragrant. Now I'm just adding a tablespoon of cornstarch in here. I'm going to stir this together really well, let the cornstarch absorb all the grease, and then we'll move on from there. Next, you'll add in 2 cups of low sodium chicken broth. Make sure you scrape the bottom of your pan with your spoon to make sure that you get everything off the bottom of your pan. You don't want to miss out on all that flavor from the sausage and the bacon. And once you've stirred that really well, you'll go ahead and grab your potatoes, add them into your pot as well, give it another good stir, and let this come to a boil. Once your potatoes are fork tender, for me that took right around 10 minutes. You can start adding in the rest of your ingredients. So I'm adding in my bacon. I'm adding in a 1/4 cup of frozen spinach. Technically you're supposed to add kale, but I didn't have that, so I just added some spinach in here. And then a 1/2 cup of heavy whipping cream. Make sure you stir this together really well. I just added some salt and pepper in here to taste, and I also added just a little tiny bit of red pepper flakes. Give it a good stir and then give it a taste and adjust your seasonings as needed. And here's my finished bowl of food. I did add some freshly grated Parmesan cheese on the top of mine. I know this soup is supposed to be a little bit thinner, but I like my soups to be a little thicker, so that's why I made mine thicker like this, but you definitely don't have to do that. And like I said, you're supposed to add kale and not spinach, but I worked with what I had. Next, we're making some spicy Chipotle skewers. I have to warn you, if you do not like spicy food, you may not like this recipe. I loved it, but I love all things spicy, and the more spicy, the better to me. I just started by taking one chicken breast and cutting it into smaller pieces so I can add them to my skewers. Into this little bowl, I'm adding about 1.5 tablespoons of honey, 1/2 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar, 1/2 teaspoon of tomato paste, 1/4 teaspoon of minced garlic, a dash of salt, and 1/4 teaspoon of Chipotle chili powder. I went ahead and just mixed this up in this little bowl. I do not want to get this on my fingers. I could just smell how spicy this was. So I went ahead and added my chicken onto the skewers first, and then decided just to drizzle the sauce over and try to spread it around the chicken the best I could. Once I got that done, I added them into my air fryer. I tried to space them apart, that way they would have plenty of space to cook. And these went into my air fryer on 350 for about 13 to 14 minutes until my chicken hit 165 and I started to see those nice crispy edges form. And then this is what it looked like, and let me tell you, these were extremely spicy, tasty but spicy, and I just ended up eating them with my leftover soup from the night before. I'm sure some of you might think this recipe looks a little weird. It's actually a Whole30 recipe, and I will link the actual recipe below for you. I used to make this all the time when I lived back at home. We are going to make these loaded sweet potato fries, and to start, I'm going to preheat my oven to 375, and I have one large sweet potato since I'm just cooking this for myself tonight. I'm going to peel it and then start cutting it into French fry pieces. So basically, to do that, I cut this large sweet potato in half, and then I cut it into smaller slices. Once I sliced it, I started cutting those slices into little pieces just like French fries. I added them all into a bowl, added some olive oil over top of them, and then just used my hand to make sure that they were well covered. For the seasonings, you'll need to add 1/2 teaspoon of chili powder, 1/2 teaspoon of paprika, 1/4 teaspoon of cumin, 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon, and about 1/4 teaspoon of garlic powder and onion powder, a dash of salt and pepper, and then give it a really good mix to make sure that the fries are covered well in all the seasonings. Like I said, this is a Whole30 recipe, but I did not follow to the Whole30 standards. I'm just making this with what I had in my house. And again, the recipe will be linked down below, so if you want to try this, you can follow it exactly. To a small baking sheet, I just sprayed that down with some nonstick spray, and then added all of my sweet potato fries on there, and I spread those out as evenly as I possibly could so that they all had room to become nice and crispy in the oven. Those baked in my oven for about 10 minutes to start. I flipped them and then they cooked for an additional 15 minutes. The original recipe, they do not cook theirs in the oven. That's something I do different. It's something that I did last time I made it as well. So like I said, the recipe will be below. Next, we're going to get started on our bacon. I just cooked up 4 slices of thick bacon. And then I'm going to fry both of my eggs right here in the bacon grease. That way they have optimal flavor. I definitely overcooked my eggs. I got distracted with my dog. You want these eggs to actually be yolky so that when you are eating the fries, it kind of comes out on the fries, but that's alright, it didn't bother me that much. But just so you know, you're supposed to cook them a little less than this. Now to get started building the plate, I'm adding all of my sweet potato fries onto my plate first. Then I'm adding my eggs right on top of there. On top of the eggs, I just added my bacon that I chopped up. And then before we move on, we need to make our guacamole. So I have 1 avocado in here. I'm just going to mash it up the best I can with my fork. I added a few drops of lime juice and a dash of salt, and then I gave this a good mix. When making this, you want to make sure you wait till last minute to make this guacamole because it will start turning brown very quickly. So if you make it before you do anything else, you're going to have brown guacamole. But if you wait till about right now when I'm making it, it'll last a little longer. But you can already see in the picture it started to change color slightly. After adding the guacamole on top, you'll sprinkle 2 green onions on there and some ranch dressing. And then this is what your final plate will look like. This combination might be weird to some, but it's actually so good. It tasted just like it did when I used to make it, and it was delicious. Thank you guys so much for being here today. Leave me a flower in the comments if you made it this far, and I will see you back here on Wednesday with a new video.